Hi, my name is Gabriel Lewis, and thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel where I'm fat and I'm not ashamed. Yeah, I get a lot of slack for that. Even my great grandson said, Granddaddy, why do you say that? That's mean. You shouldn't say that. But I told him, you don't understand what it means. I'm fat. That's an acronym for FAT. I'm focusing on me, I'm affirming me, and I'm transforming me. And that's important to me at this particular time in my life. I've had a lot of ups and downs because of my obesity. Practically my whole life, I live for other people. I sacrifice. I pastored for over 25 years. I've been in the ministry for 41 years. And most of that time, I sacrificed for other people more than I did myself. And so from this point in my life, I just made up in my mind with all of the emergency room times that I went, all of the near-death experiences. I made up my mind for the rest of my life, I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to affirm me, and I'm going to transform me. So that's what I want to talk about today. I don't know where you are in life. I don't know what you're experiencing. I don't know if you have an issue with obesity or overweight. I don't know if you got poor health. But I do know that there's one thing you got to do if you want to get well, and that's count the cost. That's what I want to talk about today. I need you to count the cost. You've got to count the cost either way, whether it's positive or negative. If you want good health, there's a price you're going to pay. If you have poor health, there's a price you're going to pay for not doing what you need to do. There are some sacrifices if you want to go through life feeling good, well, there's a price that you got to pay. You got to live your life beyond mediocrity. You got to live. You're going to have to sacrifice. You can't live it like everybody. You can't live life and be healthy eating junk food. We live in a strange society now where the standards of what we eat, what we drink, what the air we breathe is not such a good quality in my estimation. Here's a verse that I want to share with you. As you know, those of you don't know, as I said, I was a pastor for 25 years. Here's a verse that I love, that I've quoted all my life, and it's Romans 12:2. And listen at it as I read it. And this comes from the Living Bible for those of you who are familiar with it, translations. Don't copy the behavior and the customs of the world, but be a new and different person with a fresh newness in all that you do. In other words, this particular version is saying that if you're going to be different in this world, that's just what you got to be different. If you're going to be healthy, you got to be different. And what that particular verse is saying is that you cannot allow for the customs of this world to squeeze you into this mold. Like I said, we live in a system, where subtle things are slipped in before us. For instance, I remember, when I was growing up, and when we would eat fruit, something as simple as grapes, I remember how I used to get seeds, man. I hated the seeds. I hated going biting into the seeds, crunching and getting all in my teeth. But then I noticed as I got older, when did the seeds leave? Now you go to the store, it's hard to find seeded fruit, seeded vegetables. They're seedless. And that's a question mark for me. Because if God's saying, and I believe in the Bible, if God says that everything after its kind, bearing seed after its kind, what are you eating when you eat seedless fruit? I don't know. I remember being in my local fruit store, local store market. And so every week I go in, I ask them, I say, hey, you have any seeded watermelon? They always say no, particular guy and a young lady that's always working there. And so one day I went in and I say, hey, I notice every week, you have seedless watermelon, And so we got into discussion. Then one day he asked me, he said, why do you always ask for seeded watermelon? What's wrong with seedless watermelon? So I asked him the question, how can you grow fruit? How can you grow vegetables without a seed? So my question is, I don't know what I'm eating. And he looked at me and he looked at the young lady that was working with him. He said, I never thought about that before. I said, well, since you work in a produce department, that might be a good, piece of homework for you to do. So But like I say, we live in a society where they just slip in everything, you know. You probably hear in the news all of the GMOs, you know. I don't know what we're eating, I don't know what we're drinking, but I do know that we sacrifice our health when we allow ourselves to eat stuff that we don't know. For instance, you know, there's a lot of fast food going on, and you know, and I know, and I'm not naming any companies, but you can't live on a diet that's fast, that's full of grease, that's full of toxins, and be healthy. I remember first train I went to. I didn't train. I didn't go into an exercise program until I was in my late 40s, and I was under this trainer in Detroit, Michigan, which is where I'm from. His name is Big Lou. And, you know, he would have all of these, you know, stories. Matter of fact, if you listen to Big Lou, you would just stop breathing and eating, because he would just give you these horror stories, you know. But he told us it's something, you know, simple. He used to always tell us to do little simple tests. He said, look, he says, you know, if you think that French fry is good for you, here's what I want you to do tonight. I want you to go by wherever you get your fries from, wherever it is. And I want you to just set a few fries out on the table. Go on to bed. Go to sleep. And in the morning, I want you to take one of them French fries. He says, I want you to break it open. And I want you to tell me what you see. And so I did. You know, I did the test, got up in the morning, I broke it. And on the inside of that fry, you couldn't even tell it was potato, because all of that grease and all of those toxins had gelled it until it was hard in the middle of that French fry. And he looked at me, he says, when you look at that fry and you see the inside like it is, he said, think of your artery. He said the same way that grease and those toxins do to that French fry, it does the same thing to your arteries. That's why you start having circulation problems and inflammation problems, because it literally starts clogging your arteries. And to be honest with you, from that day forward, I can just about count on one hand, you know, how many fries that I've eaten after that, because that was a wake-up call for me. And even though I didn't change all of my ways, there's certain things, and I made this promise to me, even though I haven't reached my goal yet, there's certain things that I say every year. By the end of this year, there's certain things that I put into my body I'm not going to put into. You know, I remember way back in the day, and I know some of you will probably regurgitate right now, but chitlins used to be my thing, man. I love a big bowl, big plate of chitlins with some slaw on the side, maybe some potato salad, and a big hunk of cornbread. And one day it just hit me right before New Year. He said, do you really want to put these things? There's something about the whiff I got that day. And I made up my mind, and I haven't touched, it's probably over 20 years, I haven't touched a chitlin since that day. So that's one of the promises I made to myself. At the end of every year, I made up my mind that I'm going to leave something alone that I know that's harming my health. And that's a price, man. When you've been used to eating, you know, I mean, just, you know, my mama on my mother's side is North Carolina. On my daddy's side is Little Rock, Arkansas. So you can imagine what I grew up on. All of the fried, all of the cakes, all of the pies, all of the don't let Christmas come around, all of the snowball cookies, peanut cookies, sugar cookies. I grew up on the stuff. And as I got older, you got away a lot of it, got away with a lot of it. But as I get older and older, my health starts declining more and more. So it ain't easy. It's a hard road. It's some sacrifices you got to do. And if you're going to be healthy, you got to make some sacrifices. It's a struggle. Everywhere you go, everything you look at. Matter of fact, just before I began this video here for you, you know, it was Doritos and stuff flying around my house, man, that I had to say no to. But it's a fight and it's a sacrifice. But I guarantee you, it's worth the struggle. Maybe you like me and you've been fighting all your life to stay strong, to be healthy. I want to share this story with you, and I'll be through on this video. And I hope you tune in next week to hear what I got to say. But it was I like this story because it was about a guy who took a walk on a nature trail. And here he was, and all of a sudden, he noticed as he was passing, he saw this branch barely moving. And so he decided to stop and look and see what it was. Some of the people on the trail had walked ahead. The guide had went over talking with somebody else. And as he got closer, he saw the little branch. And what he discovered, it was a caterpillar who had wound himself up in that cocoon. And he was at the stage now that he was just about ready to come out. And he looked at it and he noticed that the head was coming through and he could see it moving and struggling in that cocoon. And he had a good idea. He said, you know what? This thing's struggling. He said, I'm going to help it out. So he took out a little blade he had and he cut the cocoon open. And all of a sudden, that caterpillar came out wet and slimy. And all of a sudden, it dropped to the ground. And it flapped. It flapped. It flapped. And it died. And man, the guy looked at it and he couldn't figure out why. And all of a sudden, the guide on the nature trail came along and he said, look, man, he said, I don't understand what happened. He said, I saw this caterpillar struggling to come out of this cocoon. So I thought I'd cut it open, man, and let him out so he could fly to his freedom. And the nature guy said, that was one of the worst things that you could have done. He said, because nature has designed it for that caterpillar to struggle and to turn in that cocoon. Because what you don't know, that it takes a strain even on his wings. And while he's turning inside of that cocoon, he's building the strength and the muscles up in his wings. And because he's wet inside, because of the solution that he's wound himself up in, it takes the struggle and that slow process of sticking his body out and allowing the wind to blow him dry. So that by the time he comes out, his wings are not only dry, but they're strong from the struggle. And what you did, you cut him too soon. And you cut him out to his death. And you know, I learned something from that. That's just how we are. Life is made for us to have certain struggles. And many times when we come out of our cocoons too fast, rather than come out and fly, we fall to our death. But I want you to know, it's a struggle. But I want you to keep turning. I want you to keep twisting, to let life free you. And you know what? You may have been like that caterpillar that went in, that licked the dust of the ground. But if you let life keep on working you, I know it's hard. I know you get tired. I know you get weary. But sooner or later, if you keep on struggling, your muscles will be strong and life will dry you and you will fly like a butterfly. I just want you to know, I'm fat and I'm not ashamed. I'm focusing on me. I'm affirming me. I'm going to transform me. Will you be like that caterpillar and turn to a butterfly? If you like the message, click it. Click subscribe. Hit that bell. Share it with somebody. And I'll see you next week. I'm fat and I'm not ashamed.